Welcome to No More Desire, where we build a mindset and lifestyle for lasting recovery from porn. My name's Jake Castleman, and I'm excited to dive in with you. Let's get started, my friend. I was just in this space emotionally at the time, realizing how much of a death grip I had on life and trying to control everything. When I mapped my parts, that blew my mind. I had no idea I could do that. And I found a part in my heart that identified itself as hurt. Eventually, that part became what I call the nurturer. And it's a part that's about compassion and connection and relationships. And it was just deeply suppressed and hurt. And when that part emerged, I began crying uncontrollably. And most people would think, oh, crying, that sounds miserable. It was not. It was cathartic. It was a massive release of emotion. And I spoke with this part and it told me, you've ignored me your whole life. It's easy to feel that our addiction comes from an evil part of us. We condemn this part, suppress it, get angry at it, try to control it. And at the end of all this, we find failure. Why? Because most of us have been taught to work with the mind in a way that is insufficient and often damaging. We treat our pain as an enemy, and this causes it to respond with even more vehemence, leading to self-sabotage and further relapses. Here's the paradoxical truth, my friend. Negative thoughts or dark inclinations are not meant to be suppressed, but understood and shown compassion. Addictive parts of us are not meant to be hated, but seen and loved. When we do this, we step out of self-control and into self-compassion. We stop fighting ourselves and start leading ourselves. That is the kind of approach that my guest, Conor McMillen, founder of internalfamilysystems.org, is advocating for. In 2012, Conor faced a series of devastating events, a divorce, near bankruptcy, and severe addiction. He knew he needed a change, but didn't know where to start. That was when he discovered IFS, or Internal Family Systems, a revolutionary new way to process emotion and heal trauma. Conor began learning a compassionate, curious, and calm approach to the mind. He got sober, he remarried, and is a happy father, husband, and man who has spent thousands of hours helping others on their journey too. Conor trained at the IFS Institute founded by Dr. Richard Schwartz and is an IFS-trained life coach, empowering people to heal around the world. In this episode, Conor and I discuss how addiction often functions as a protective strategy, not just a destructive habit, why willpower and discipline can help us change behavior, but not fully heal the pain underneath that behavior. How busyness, productivity, exercise, food, video games, or even self-improvement can become replacement addictions when we do not address the deeper emotional needs. And how IFS teaches that there are no bad parts, only parts of us using outdated or harmful strategies to try to protect us. Feeling your emotions more deeply may be one of the most important skills for long-term recovery, and IFS is a practical, daily tool for emotional regulation, self-awareness, and freedom from porn addiction. Through what you learn today, you can begin to experience less cravings, less setbacks, less relapses, and a healthier relationship with sexuality, as well as more internal peace as you stop fighting yourself and start working alongside your mind. Before we dive in, a reminder to follow and rate this podcast so that other men looking for help can find it. And make sure to hit that notification button as well so that you can keep finding it. All right, let's get started. This is a joy. You're the founder of IFS.org, internalfamilysystems.org. When I watched you on YouTube and just what you shared on, I think it was the 7 questions for parts, it was so practical. It was straightforward. It was a way that people could relate to. And it even helped me. I took down those 7 questions and I've used them in my own work and my work with clients. So you break this stuff down in a way that's really practical and helpful to people. So today we're going to do some of that kind of in session and practicing that and showing people how it goes. And then also talking about you, your story, and and diving into all this stuff of the mysterious inner world of parts, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an exciting world, and it's exciting for everybody. Once you kind of go there, there's so much to see. It really is like your choose your own adventure inside your own system. Incredibly helpful for starting to figure out how you operate the way that you do and being able to compassionately make the changes that you want to make to your life to ultimately improve it.
Yes, I agree. I like the choose your own adventure thing. It's a good.
Those are
I've never
great
heard
books.
anybody's.
Remember those
I've
books?
ne Yeah. Oh man, I do. I do remember those books.
Ooh.
My siblings read all those, and I was so young. I was so young. I don't even know if they came out when I was young, or if we just had them laying around. But
Yeah, they were
yeah,
older. Yeah.
yes, right. I'm missing the gray hair. Maybe it's not of my generation, but we had them in our house. And they were
Yeah. Well,
fun.
for your audience, give it a Google, choose your own adventure books, and then apply it to your IFS journey.
Love it. Love it. Already getting practical. So, so Connor, I would love for you to just start off by sharing your story, especially when it
Sure.
comes to, kind of wherever you want to start with that. But then, especially for my audience, guys who are struggling with pornography addiction and other associated addictions, and then their spouses who are in betrayal
Mm.
trauma. So, you have an amazing story with addiction and recovery, all
Hmm.
locked into that. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many places to start when we tell our story. And I like to say, obviously, it's not the first time I've told my story, but the cool thing about retelling your own story is noticing how you tell it today, and the updates that you make, the reflections that you have today. So it's always a good opportunity. Thanks for the invitation. Um, I could just jump back to kind of the crux of the situation, which was a little over 12 years ago when my wife at the time chose to separate from me. And it wasn't, I mean, most of these things are messy and painful. And it was one of those messy and painful things where, I really felt betrayed. I felt used, just a lot of pain. It was also a relationship that I'd been in since I was 16, so 16 to 28, very formative years. Um, And so I really felt like the attachment bond that we had, the lack of communication that we had, the self-awareness that we didn't have, all those things were kind of a reflection of what it looks like when you're quite young getting into a relationship. And there wasn't really a lot of development for me over that 12 years. So when I found myself, recently as I felt it abandoned, I felt abandoned. I felt rejected. I really felt worthless. But in addition to that, some of those things I had already been feeling, regardless of the relationship. Retrospectively, I could see that my coping mechanism was drugs and alcohol and pornography. And sort of we could maybe even say deviant sexual behavior if we want to go that far of an expression, but just engaging with checking out a lot of women, having a lot of fantasy, getting into kind of fetishistic thoughts, just sort of like more and more and more. So I definitely had these three kind of areas: drugs, alcohol, pornography, sex addiction, kind of stuff going on before the separation happened. So the worthlessness I was experiencing, the abandonment that I was feeling, the loneliness that I was feeling, all those things I had already been feeling, but they sort of blew up at this time of the separation. So I think there's a handful of times in our lives when we really do have these breakthrough moments. And this was one of those. This was one of those for me. And there was just something of a time where I realized like, okay, I can keep doing the same things that I've been doing, or I can change literally everything. And somehow, the amalgamation of the situation gave me enough momentum through the experience of pain to choose to do things really differently. Um, and in a very short amount of time, I changed my relationship with drugs and alcohol. I changed my diet. I quit smoking cigarettes. I quit drinking. I quit doing drugs. And I just kind of refocused on health. And that worked really, really well for a period of time. But what I didn't include was self-awareness, emotional recovery, um, components that will inevitably catch up with you. When we make these big changes in our lives, sometimes we could do them really well for a short amount of time with enough willpower. But at some point, if we don't go to the root, if we don't start developing the self-awareness, we don't start looking at what are our pain points, why did they develop, how can I be with it now? I think that in one way or another, we're going to return to some of those same habits. So I happen to be listening to a podcast. I can't even tell you which one or where it was from or how it happened, but I was listening to a podcast and it just so happened that Richard Schwartz came on that podcast. He's the creator of internal family systems. I listened to this podcast for 2 hours and it was like a light bulb just went off in my system. I literally, from that one podcast, talking about the idea of parts, my system kind of reorganized just in that moment. And it was like, ah, I can see, I can see my addiction parts. I can see my shame parts. I can see my self-critical parts. I can see my worthless parts, my loneliness parts, my abandonment parts, just from that 2 hours. And so, that change, it wasn't like everything all of a sudden, fit into place and I'm all of a sudden healed. But it was like
Right.
such a big shift that I just knew like, okay, this is what I want to focus my attention on. And so that's what I did. I bought every book that was available at the time. There weren't that many. I watched every video I could find, every podcast I could find, and I kind of dedicated myself to self-led IFS, which wasn't something that was really being promoted. I just kind of made it up at the time. I figured I can do this. And so, I just kind of started doing IFS with myself and on myself. And over the next, 6 months, just profound change, profound change, profound change, a lot of self-development, a lot of self-reflection. And I, at some point, decided, okay, I think I want to do something with this, like for my life. And I was in construction at the time. I was actually in foreclosure management, which was a whole different story. Um, and I decided, okay, I've got like $5,500 in my bank account. Let's see if I can get into the IFS Institute's training, which was $5,000. And I was like, they're probably not going to accept me because I'm not a therapist. I have a history degree. I'm in construction, just this kind of random guy at the time in Massachusetts. Um, but I sent out the application. Lo and behold, I got accepted without a blink of an eye. I spent almost all the money I had to get into the institute's training. I did the training, and from that point forward, I started doing sessions with individuals, developed a program that's geared to help individuals learn how to do the same things that I did, which is self-led IFS therapy. And yeah, I mean, I've done other things, but this has been a cornerstone of my sort of career path, my dedication and my passion for well over a decade now. So a lot more nuance there I could share, but that's the general setup.
I love that story so much, Connor. I find it incredibly relatable, and I think it's interesting the patterns that we share as
Mm,
individuals because your story mirrors mine in ways.
mm.
Actually, a podcast with Richard Schwartz.
Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Mm.
It was the Rich Roll podcast. So it was much
Oh,
later. He had released the book No Bad Parts, and I was 7 years into sobriety from pornography, right? And
mm,
I had some drug addiction and alcohol addiction previous to that as well. And I had this major rock bottom experience. I consider it my real rock bottom, even though I had been sober for so long, where I realized I still have an addict mindset. I remember I was in the hospital, not for myself, but my son was being born. And after he was born, I remember I was just in this space emotionally at the time with all these factors that were going on in life and realizing how much of a death grip I had had on life and trying to control everything. And that I was obsessed with my nutrition. I was obsessed with my exercise. I was obsessed with busyness and productivity. I was obsessed with work. And I remember just laying on the little bench in the hospital room and just thinking, I'm still an addict.
Mm.
I'm still an addict. After all this time, I still am living in this way. And that's when, as you say, self-awareness became the center of my recovery within a matter of months after that. And I was praying to God, I don't know what to change. Like, I don't know what to do. I just know I've got problems and I literally have no idea how to change. I don't know how to think differently than this. This is my approach to recovery. Stay busy, stay productive, bear down and just be disciplined. And so the answer to that faithful prayer was IFS. That was when I was listening to the Ritual podcast. Richard Schwartz came on. It was a 2-hour podcast, just like you're saying. And my mind, I was just like, I'm listening and I'm just like, what? And it all starts, it just made sense to me intuitively. It was like, yes, I relate to all of that. Yes. And this is a way of understanding the mind that is empowering and amazing. And so we had so little money at the time. My dad actually purchased No Bad Parts as a gift for me. He's like, I'll send it to you. I was like, thank you. And I began reading it and I began doing the meditative exercises in there and I began having breakthroughs. When I mapped my parts, that blew my mind. I had no idea I could do that. And I found a part in my heart that identified itself as hurt at that point. That's what it was called, right? As we say, what it called itself in the IFS realm. And it was eventually that part became what I call the nurturer. And it's a part that's about compassion and connection and relationships and people. And it was just deeply suppressed and hurt. And when that part emerged, actually reading No Bad Parts, he has another podcast episode that's transcripted that he did with someone. And I read that and it's like Richard Schwartz was speaking to me and I was the guy he was doing the session with. And I began crying uncontrollably. And most people would think, oh, crying, that sounds miserable. It was not miserable. It was amazing. It was cathartic. It was a massive release of emotion. And I spoke with this part and it told me, you've ignored me your whole life. And I felt so abandoned. And I spent this, 45 minutes apologizing to this part. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were here. And it's when you haven't done it, it can sound so bizarre, but when you experience it, it's so real. That was so real for me. And that began to unlock my whole life. Stuff I'd worked for a decade to try to overcome, IFS began to unlock in a number of months, same as you're saying.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And I mean, I think you bring up a great point when it comes to making lifestyle change, especially for those of us who struggle with addiction. Busyness can become another addiction. And what is addiction? Essentially it's a distraction. So busyness can definitely be a distraction. It can actually be a really helpful distraction. So it's not to put that down and say like, me getting really busy with my health was bad. That's great. You used that to get through. I did a very similar thing. I think a lot of people choose that route. It's awesome. But as you found, at some point, there's another layer to go into. And it's never too late and it's never too early to start developing a higher level of self-awareness. The other thing you referenced here is something so pivotal and key in IFS is the compassionate approach to understanding our system. that's really like a different kind of mindset when when we start thinking about change. I need to change who I am. I want to change a specific thing about me or what I do, which is great. And we have the power to do that, and we can absolutely do that. What IFS offers us is to slow the desire down, the need to change, and to actually just accept and to be with what is currently in our present moment. But I don't think it's one or the other. I think both things can work together. And especially with addiction, sometimes we just got to make the change by any means necessary. We got to just do it. And to be able to do that, awesome. Get on the other side and then start bringing in the IFS, the self-awareness stuff. I think that's a great way to do it. It's also possible to do it in tandem.
Yes. Yeah. So good. So good. And I agree. I think I needed that for a time.
Yeah.
The constant kind of busyness. I built discipline, right? And then I just continued to I
Good.
felt like I continued to carry that on for years, and and it became my new way of distracting myself from all the stuff I actually suffer with. So life will I think either we can kind of consciously choose to take those steps into self-awareness and emotional work, or life will bring us something. Or like life will bring something to us that, as brutal as it sounds, will crush us, because we have to experience that breaking so our heart can open and we can be like, whoa, like you said, what I've been doing is not working. It's not
Mm-hmm.
working. And I have
That's
to do
right.
something else. Mhm.
And it's a beautiful place to be. It's beautiful, super brutal, super painful, as you say. But it offers profound clarity. And that is the time, that is really the time to say, okay, let's do it different. Let's make a change. Let's see what we can do
Yes.
here in this beautiful thing called life.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. I want to break down some of the basics of IFS. Anyone
Yeah,
who's
let's
been
do it.
listening to my podcast for a while will know these things, but as we kind of prep to do our own little IFS session today and break down for people how this is done in a basic sense, and maybe with some deep components too, we'll see where it goes. Um, but I want to kind of talk about these roles of parts and really talk about the self, because especially when we say self-awareness, IFS transformed that for me. People said self-awareness. I was like, what does that mean? But
Mm.
IFS self-awareness. So we'll talk about the self and why that's so crucial, I think, for life in general, but recovery specifically too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. I think I could give a pretty quick, easy to understand kind of breakdown of IFS, and we can get more specific as you like. So at the center of it all, the IFS framework, the IFS idea is this place that we're referring to called self. I think of self being relatively synonymous with mindfulness or presence, but we do add in some characteristics to self specifically. I really like to just focus on three. That's calm, curious, and compassionate. It's the easiest to
Mm.
remember, and I think those are the most beneficial characteristics of self.
You don't
So
like
are
to
you
go
in a
with the eight. You don't like to go with the eight C's.
I think it's too many. Like even I forget all the HCs. It's too many for people. And at the end of the
It,
day, yeah, go ahead.
it's so funny to me when Richard Shorts. There have been multiple things I've watched where he forgets like two of them
Yeah,
as he's trying to say all of them, and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Richard, you created this. It is too
Yeah,
much. They're really
it's a
good,
bit
but yeah,
they're all really good. I mean, I have a video that breaks them all down. You could totally watch them. Maybe you have a podcast people can reference, whatever. They're out there, but for our purposes, just remember these three: calm, curious, compassionate. And so the
love that.
question we're asking ourselves again and again is, do I feel calm? Do I feel curious? And do I feel compassionate? Now, we're asking ourselves those questions in order to develop self awareness. Just asking ourselves that question develops more self energy. And then if we get the answer back, yeah, I do feel calm, curious, and compassionate. Awesome. That means most likely self is on board. If we get the answer back, I do feel calm and curious and compassionate and feel kind of frustrated right now. Awesome. That means a part of us is feeling frustrated. So we have, again, at the core, self. And we are kind of looking to live and certainly to lead from self energy as much as is reasonably possible. Beyond the self, there are the protectors, the protective system. And these are broken down into two different roles, managers and firefighters. Managers are going to be more the day to day. Firefighters are going to be the ones that rush in to kind of help out. The protective system is there to just do exactly that. It's there to protect you. It might be an out of date system. So the ways that it is trying to take care of you, the system as a whole, may not be relevant to your current reality, but at some point in your life, it was incredibly important. It was like the best strategy your system could come up with. Addiction can be one of those strategies. So that can be a protective part that is trying to take care of you by addicted behavior, through addicted behavior. And that can be a difficult thing for other parts of us to accept, that there's goodness to our addictive behavior. It's a lot.
Right. Yes.
Right.
I know how
Yeah.
revolutionary that was for me. It was so counterintuitive, but
So counterintuitive, right?
it becomes so fundamental once you
That's
learn
right.
it.
That's right. And again, that's coming back to, what does self have? It has compassion. So can we come back into self and have compassion for this part of us that's trying to protect us through the use of something like addiction? And it's not always extreme stuff like addiction. It can be all kinds of stuff. Um, a part of us that likes to keep track of our day-to-day activities, maybe a part of us that's a little bit perfectionistic, maybe a part of us that is a little self-critical or other critical. None of these things are inherently bad, and they're not necessarily inherently good. But the root core and desire is always inherently good in these parts. And that is to make sure that you stay alive. And
Mm.
if they can do that, then okay, let's have like the best life possible. So I bring that up because it's important to keep in mind a lot of protectors are still in survival mode. They're still in survival mode. They may not know I'm actually in a pretty safe environment right this moment. Nothing's trying to get me. I'm not being attacked. Things are actually pretty okay. Those protectors can actually relax. They may just not know that. So they're on guard and they're vigilant. So we got self at the core. We have protectors around, taking care of the day to day, maybe rushing in to take care of specific situations. The deeper level is something that we call exiles. And those are parts of us that have experienced trauma, most likely when we've been very, very young. And they've taken that trauma and they have gone deep inside our system to hide it so that we don't have to live with the experience of trauma every single moment. The theory is that if we had to live with the experience of that trauma when it happened every moment, we wouldn't survive it. It would be that painful to our system. And so the system, with the beautiful intelligence it has, it grabs that trauma and it buries it. And these protectors develop in order to protect us from getting close to that trauma. So if the trauma, may be associated with something like worthlessness, I am not good enough. The experience of a part of us that is holding on to that trauma is, well, if I'm worthless, I probably shouldn't be alive. That's a pretty intense narrative, right? And if you were living with that narrative 24/7, you can see how that could potentially lead to your non-survival, let's say.
Right.
So we store that trauma. We have protectors that protect against re-triggering that trauma, maybe through something like an addictive behavior. And in general, most of us are kind of living our lives through the protective parts. Um, Unless we start becoming self-aware, it doesn't have to be through IFS. There's lots of techniques to develop mindfulness, right? But unless we actively are choosing to kind of step into a state of presence, most of us are living through parts. And so what we're trying to do with IFS is not only better understand how our protective system operates and how we can help them, how we can also update them in the present reality. In addition to maybe getting in touch with some of those exiles and helping to actually unburden them, we can talk about that more later on, but helping them basically process the trauma that they're holding on to, that letting them know it's safe to release it. But we're also, maybe more important than any of it, we're just learning how to be mindful. We're learning how to be present. We're learning how to be here right now with the beautiful complexity that we are and that life has to offer. How can we do that with grace and integrity? How can we do that with calm, curiosity, and compassion? So that's the main premise, I would say, especially when you're first getting into IFS. It's just kind of start asking yourself that regular question, am I calm, curious, and compassionate right now?
I really like this explanation, Connor, and I like something I just learned because again, every time we discuss things like this, I feel like you always learn just a little bit more. Knowledge is added to, understanding is added to.
Mm.
You said that exiles take our trauma and our pain and they bring it down deep inside so that we don't have to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the protectors keep us from accessing them, which I I know that, but it's interesting because a while back when I first learned IFS, I thought that managers and firefighters, they had their roles, but exile wasn't a role. But an exile
Mm.
is a role
Crucial
where
role.
that part has chosen to, I will take this and I will make sure you don't feel it. I will carry it down deep inside so that you don't have to feel it. Is that right?
That's totally right. Yeah, I think that's a great way of explaining that. Their role is absolutely vital. It may not be vital today. So at the time, absolutely essential, most likely for your literal survival. Your
hmm
literal survival. That's how serious it is that we're talking about here.
Before we get back to the show, I want to take a few minutes to share a story of one of my clients. Because if you're someone who's been battling with porn addiction yourself and feeling stuck, I think that you'll relate to this. My client Gabe came to me discouraged about the impact his porn use was having on his life. It got in the way of his productivity at work, made him feel more distant from his wife and kids, and caused him to experience brain fog, lack of motivation, and a lack of confidence. All things that I relate to deeply and personally. Gabe was a good man. He valued his family, served his community, he had a good job, and he had ambition. He could even get a decent streak of sobriety sometimes, but nothing long lasting. Gabe's problem was not discipline. It was a lack of knowledge and skill. He didn't understand how to regulate his emotions and train his nervous system properly, so that cravings, anger, and other painful emotions could be moved through effectively. By the time he finished my program, Gabe had 5 months of sobriety without a single relapse. His perspective on life had changed dramatically, and for the first time, he felt fully connected and in harmony with his principles and who he was. I'll share a few of his words directly. I would leave every session with Jake feeling like my eyes had been opened to a new level of understanding that changed my self-talk, my relationship with my spouse, and my ability to connect with my children. The program felt incrementally tailored to my needs and had the exact building blocks I needed to live a sober lifestyle and mindset. I've kept in touch with Gabe since then. His success has continued, and he is now 7 months sober. Gabe's story is one of many men who've joined my intensive coaching program and experienced sobriety. If you want to join these men, dig deep, and finally be sober for good, head to nomordesire.com/program to learn more. Back to the show. Yes. And so somebody listening might think, well, then why do I need to go to these exiles and even touch those burdens? Why would I need to do that? And why would I need to do that for addiction? So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a straightforward answer. I think it's going to be a bit nuanced. So let me see if I can make it a little specific. Most of us have some part that struggles with feelings of worthlessness. Pretty much everyone I've ever worked with has some version of that.
Yep.
The experience of worthlessness, as I just referenced, it might be associated with abandonment, the experience of abandonment when we were an infant. And when we are very, very young, we're trying to make sense of the world. Um, if we are abandoned or left, we have this feeling of abandonment. The way that we make sense of that is there must be something wrong with me. I must not be good enough to be cared for or to get my needs met.
Hmm.
So this exile would be actually having that experience and hiding it down. The what we call burden here would be the belief that that exile is holding on to, that I am not good enough to be loved.
Yep. Yep.
And if we're not good enough to be loved, by the way, when we're an infant, we literally die. So, that this is the experience that is the closest thing to the scariest event possible in our lives, which is death. That's how serious it is that we're talking about. And so this is the experience that this exile is holding. And then again, to make sure that we don't re-experience that trauma on the day to day, we have all these protectors that are trying to avoid getting close to anything that resembles a feeling of worthlessness. We have so many opportunities that in our life to get a little tickle of not feeling that good about ourselves, that
Yeah.
then it makes sense if that tickle could lead to a catastrophic storm of traumatic, I am worthless, I'm not good, I'm going to die, that we would have protective layers trying to combat that, trying to make sure that we don't even get the trickle, we don't even get the raindrop of feeling worthless. And that can manifest in distraction, i.e., addiction. So while we can, as we were talking about earlier in the podcast, we can go after the habit of getting through the addiction, getting over the addiction, getting past the addiction, we can stop it. If we don't somehow return to that root cause, which in this case would be that exile, we are very likely prone to either go back into the same addiction or develop another addiction in order to cope with the underlying primary pain that we are attempting, or our protective layers attempting to avoid at all costs.
And it's incredibly common too. I hear it from the men I work with
Across the board.
often, right? Where, well, okay, I'm not watching porn as much, I'm getting weeks of sobriety, but now I started playing video games a lot. Like I feel like I
Yeah.
can't stop. I'm like,
Yeah.
your protectors has switched its form of escape. It's just chosen a
That's
new
right.
one.
That's right. And again, a great option, to change one addiction for another, maybe less overwhelming or impactful addiction. That's not a terrible strategy initially. But long term, what do we really want? We want freedom from addiction. We want the opportunity to choose our distractions, not have our protectors choose to distract. There's a huge
Mhm.
difference there. We all need a
Mhm.
certain level of distraction. It's totally okay to pop on a movie and just chill. That's great. Sometimes we need that. But wouldn't it be nice to choose that rather than just a protector coming in, most likely a firefighter that's getting close to maybe a feeling of, uh-oh, I might not be good, and rush us in to have us start checking out women or fantasy
Mhm.
or porn or drinking or overworking. It can be so many things. And by the way, this is a prolific issue in our day and age. It is not only isolated to specific, well-known addictions like porn or alcohol or drugs. Almost everyone is doing it in some form. So in that sense, we're all kind of in a similar boat here. We're all trying to work on the same thing.
Yes. So good. Again, a very, I think a way to explain it that most people can understand. So, Connor, I would love to show people an example of how this works in day to day life. This will not be a self led process, as in me by myself, which I do every day for at least 15 minutes a day. It's
That's great.
absolutely changed my life to do parts work. Um, but it will be with you leading me. So I want to pick this is what I was thinking of today as I kind of brought up this idea to you. And I've already done some parts work for this, so we'll see where this goes. But I think it's one that's relatable to a lot of men in my audience. This experience of being at the gym and seeing a woman that's very attractive, very beautiful. So I'll kind of break down this experience. And if I'm ever looking down, I may be writing little notes to keep myself on
Sure.
track. So, okay. So I'm going to try to give a couple of details. So, at my gym that I go to, this is so funny this happens because I feel like life, again, brings us experiences, triggers our trailheads. This is something that is actually an opportunity for me. So at the gym I go to, a girl began showing up that went to my high school. I wasn't sure if I recognized her at first, but she was one of the most beautiful girls in my whole high school. High school was very difficult for me. Never felt like I'm matched up, right, to the guys or the girls, any of that. Never felt worthy of, to be with a great girl, right? So this girl shows up. There are so many emotions that come up for me. The initial emotion on the surface, obviously, is kind of that arousal, that excitement, right? But there's a lot of other emotions. So that is what I would like to use as our trailhead to kind of move into this.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
And, we can break it down a little bit after, and we'll just kind of go into the way that I typically do with most people. So I'll give you the option. There's two different ways that we could do it. It's more conversational, or a real kind of drop in where I'd have you close your eyes and just a tiny bit of breathing in the beginning.
Let's drop in. Let's just go. Let's go in. Let's do it.
Let's go. All right. So yeah, Jake, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. Yeah, that's great. Just some big breaths like that. Let's be two more. Slow it down a little bit on this one. Maybe one more like that. Nice big inhale. And release it off. Awesome. Now you can just keep breathing in a way that feels good for you. I invite you at any time to open your eyes, to move your body, stand up, whatever you need to do. I'm going to start with a really simple question, which is, how do you feel right now?
There's nervousness.
Mm.
I think purpose and joy in being able to do this, but also the nervousness of part of me that shows up and says, what will people think? Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But
let's pause there before you continue. I want to hear the next part, but let's give that nervousness just a little nod of recognition. Just kind of let it know, hey, I feel you. And where do you feel that nervousness, by the way? How do you know that you feel that nervousness?
Right down in my gut.
Gut. All right. If you would, put a hand on your gut just for a moment. Yeah. Just saying internally, I feel you there. Does it make sense to feel that nervousness, Chick? Yeah, just
Yes.
let it know. You make sense to me. As you do that, just noticing, is there any change, any shift in the nervousness?
Relaxing. Mm-hmm. Softening.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just let it know also, hey, I feel you relaxing. And I'm guessing that feels pretty good. Does it feel good to have it kind of relax a bit? Yeah, let it know. That feels good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Ah. And if that nervousness comes back up, you just let me know. We can be here for it. It's not a problem. Doesn't need
Thank
anything
you,
else from me
Connor.
right now.
I don't think so. I think there's a feeling of confidence, which is good.
Okay. Great. Great. That's one of the C's.
It's one of the C's. That's right. One of those 8.
Yeah, one of those A's. Good. All right. Yeah. So you mentioned purpose, you mentioned confidence. I'm just kind of tuning into those emotions, letting those expand a bit. And you did bring up this particular trailhead. Definitely get to that in just a minute. Is there anything else that you're noticing right now?
I think that there's a desire, there's an expectation a part of me has that this be really meaningful
Mm-hmm.
to do significant good for people, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of good in there. And there's also a bit of the manager kind of energy of like, I've got to make this good.
Yeah, yeah. Makes so much sense for me that that's there. Makes sense to you too.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that's in my heart.
yeah. So that's great. You just made that hand to body connection. Just kind of same deal, just let it know. You really understand its desire to have this be meaningful for you, yes, but mostly for your audience. You can kind of show something. It makes so much sense. Does it have anything else it wants to share with you right now? Any needs?
There's a feeling of recognition there, like thank you for seeing me. I
Nice, nice.
think that's good.
Good. Yep. And it too it can just be here and it can witness and it's welcome to come back in anytime. Mm. And what's left?
I think there's an anxiousness to proceed into the
Yeah.
trailhead.
Some readiness. Yeah. Cool.
Mm, mm,
Let's jump into it.
okay.
I think that, we can name that there might be an anxious part ready. There's some anticipation. And I think it's also time. So yeah, we hear that desire and I'm ready to meet it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you so much for the narrative story around the trailhead. It gives me a lot to work on. As you kind of go through that story again, as we're entering that trailhead, what's kind of the first thing that comes up? Whether it's a visual, body sensation, energetic, anything. We're entering the trailhead, what happens?
It's a clear image of this girl, actually,
Hmm.
just at the gym, um, nervousness,
Mm.
um, overwhelm. There's like excitement and arousal. There's also fear. Um, Immediately, one of the emotions I noticed was like a shame. Like, ooh, I gotta just avoid this situation altogether.
Mhm.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And as you referenced, a lot of different parts showing up kind of all at once, simultaneously. Yeah. Does it make sense to you that there's kind of a rush of different parts?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
I
the
mean,
vision? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the part that gets excited and aroused, kind of, that's the firefighter type of deal of it, wanting to mask all the other
Mm,
emotions. But because of doing this parts work, I can see those other components that are going on too, you know?
yeah. Yeah. Kind of sounds like firefighter would typically be the biggest one. Those other ones would probably be there, but you have enough self-awareness to be able to kind of pick apart. There's these different parts here. One of those is the firefighter that comes in with the arousal. Yeah,
Mm, mm.
makes so much sense. How do you feel witnessing these parts? How do you feel about these parts right now?
I've just had another part come in that says, it's kind of says to that firefighter responding part, like, shut up, go away,
Mm-hmm.
stop being so obnoxious. Um, don't want to feel this right now. You're being overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I call my organizer saying, we need to be moral. We need to be righteous. We need to have a disciplined mind.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That all makes a lot of sense to me. Really clear organizer part. Here's our principles. This does not align with our principles. Makes a lot of sense. So just letting it know, I hear you. I hear you. Your message is received so clear. How do you feel towards the organizer part?
There's more openness now, and saying that it's an understanding and like an admiration. Like, I see how you're trying to help.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, the admiration and maybe some gratitude. If you can just send a little bit extra of that to the organizer. Ah, thank you. See the way it's trying to help.
Hmm.
Yeah. And now I wanted to see if the organizer would be open to giving you a little bit more time with the firefighter that comes up. It's welcome to stay here. It can watch everything and it can come back in anytime. We just want to see, would it give you a little bit of space?
Yeah, there's actually a very immediate detaching, which is nice.
Nice. Nice. So just thank that part for giving you space. That's really awesome. Oh, and we're turning back a little bit our attention to the firefighter. If it's still there, if you still have a connection.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell me,
Yep.
where are you at? What's happening inside of you right now?
Me asking him that, or
Oh,
are you
I'm
asking me
asking.
that?
Yeah, I'm asking you. Give me an update.
Yeah, I think I feel curiosity. I'd like to understand the part better and just feeling openness to it being
Mm-hmm.
here, seeing it more clearly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So taking that curiosity, almost like it's a light. And if you can kind of visualize shining that light towards the firefighter, doesn't have to be exactly that, whatever makes sense to you, to send the curiosity to that firefighter, really letting it know, I am curious about you. And then just seeing what happens.
I think I just had an interruption in my mind, which was, ooh, time. What if we go too long? What if Connor doesn't have time for
You tell
this?
me, how about this? Let's do this because I think it's a really important part that's coming up and tracking time. I have that same part too. I really want to honor that part. So on my computer, it's 10:58. When would be a good complete end time for you?
I think I have till 11:25, or what would it be? Your time? Yeah, 10:25 your time. I don't remember. Anyway, 25 after.
25 after. Now, is that for the entirety of the podcast or just for this segment?
I think there's a part of me that's trying to stretch it. So how about 20 after is good for this segment? Then we can wrap up. That sounds good.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'll be timekeeper. I'm really good at that. I'm speaking mostly to your timekeeper part. So that part can, and if it's willing, trust me to keep track of the time. And what I will do is 5 minutes before, uh, 20 after, I'll give you a heads up. Hey, we're 5 minutes out. Okay. And we'll kind of wrap it up nicely. Sound good?
Perfect. Thank
Okay.
you, Connor. Appreciate
Yeah.
that,
My
man.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay.
Just take a big breath. Ah, yeah, yeah. Just coming back in. Nothing has to be done right now. We're just kind of exploring. You tell me what's alive right now. What's happening?
There's a gratitude towards you for helping me calm.
Aw,
Thank you.
yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for expressing that. Feels really good.
Thank
Hmm.
you. Okay, I'm ready to re-engage.
So we're sort of looking at this firefighter that came up, and I was just starting to connect with the curiosity you were feeling towards the firefighter. It's okay if any of that has changed. So just tell me. You tell me what's alive right now. Where are you at? Where's the firefighter?
I think kind of, I'm noticing that timekeeper showed up, right? Right as I was approaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in that recognition, there's opening.
Mm.
Uh, yeah. So I'm reapproaching that firefighter part. And I sense it's like a childlike curiosity, I would say a joy in that part, which I didn't anticipate, honestly.
In the firefighter part, there's a childlike
Mm,
curiosity and joy.
mm.
Yeah. How do you feel just saying that, being able to witness that? How do you feel towards that part?
I think I'm feeling from that part it communicating it's almost like a grieving, like a cathartic grieving and being recognized. Like, thank you for
Mm.
actually seeing me rather than just treating me like I'm bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you being a little more in self, being able to witness. You're getting to really feel the essence of this part, and it's being able to really be seen without other parts that tend to judge it, which makes complete sense. That's
Mm-hmm. It
beautiful.
feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me
Yeah,
more.
I feel a gratitude for that part. And it's like we've moved into the same room together, kind of sitting down with it and seeing it.
Hmm. Beautiful. Is there anything that it would like to share with you? Anything more about its experience, how it feels, what it needs?
Let me ask. There's a feeling of I'm so sad. Like it's taking me back to like 12 years old.
Mm.
And like I'm so sad that I didn't get to connect with these girls at my school and around me, my community. My thoughts go back to my first crush in my neighborhood. And that there was it's like this part of me just wanted to connect like to really have fun and like really just enjoy like the femininity of girls and just how different and fun they are, and being able to be friends and hang out and get to know them and be fascinated by them. And there was this barrier of other parts of this anxiousness and this nervousness and this like I have to do everything right, you know?
Mm.
And I think this part grieves that and saddened it didn't get to be fully alive.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of hearing one, there is like a missing out on a really deep longing for just connection with the feminine, connection with women your age, that girls at the time. That would been fun, exploration and the joy of that experience. Really missing out on that. And then there was also something else that you brought up about having to kind of do things perfectly, some anxiety around. Yeah. I'm curious, is that a different part or is that part of the same kind of structure?
It's like this part is pointing to, I would say, two other parts that are involved in that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
One that is nervous and one that is anxious, if that makes sense.
Anxious. Uh-huh. Yeah. And so its kind of core desire was masked by the experience of these other parts. The part that was anxious, the part that was nervous. Yeah.
Hmm. I will say the anxious part, it's like anxious about, I can't express that. I can't connect in that way. I can't be close to those. I can't risk that. It would be
Mhm.
inappropriate, dangerous.
Mhm.
Sex is dangerous, sexuality, you know. And then the nervousness, on the other hand, is distinct in the part saying, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough,
Mhm.
I'm scared,
Mhm.
right? So very different motives, different feelings in those two.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just kind of recap very briefly here. It's like three parts that we're kind of engaging with. One is the anxiousness around sex is dangerous, this kind of narrative. There's nervousness that relates to feelings of not being good enough, feelings of worthlessness. And then there's the kind of the arousal that happens present day, rooted in fun, curiosity, and that kind of feeling blocked by the nervousness and the anxiety. Is that
Hmm.
following, tracking correctly?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes. And actually, what just came up as you said that is the narrative within my religion, within my faith that I grew up with. And it's like a very childlike recognition of like, when I say the word sex, it's sexuality as a whole, it's engagement with the other sex. Like that's left for marriage. Like there has to be, I have to keep that bound down,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. And I think that belief is very strong and has been there throughout my whole life.
Hmm.
And so it goes beyond just, anyway, I think you understand what I'm saying.
I do, yeah. And I think of it like putting a lid on a pot of boiling water and the steam builds up, and at some point something's going to happen. You can feel the pressure. At the very least, you're going to feel the pressure, and it makes sense what that would kind of translate to the experience of anxiety.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Now I have a part showing up with paranoia
Yeah.
saying people are going to hear this and be like, oh, great, Jake's going to go cheat on his wife now.
Mm. Mm. How does that paranoia feel? How do you feel about experiencing
Uh,
that?
there's no realistic to it, but there's definitely like a real kind of manager inclination of like, I have to explain this right now and reassure
Yeah.
people that that's not happening. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it looks very uncomfortable, the experience that they had.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think to me, Jake, just so you know, doesn't sound like that at all. Uh, can really make the distinction between you, present day adult Jake, with capacity to process, make the right decisions for yourself, and the experience that we're kind of referencing has to do more with your childhood stuff, where this lid was put on, placed, and through that, we've had other parts kind of develop.
Mm-hmm.
And I also totally
Thanks.
want to give you the opportunity to say very frankly and clearly to your audience what's true for you.
Yes. Well, thanks, Connor. I appreciate that deeply. Yeah. I think it helps me a great deal to engage with all the emotion and to really, really understand, and for me, the distinction between that and my choices that I make, like, there's a very distinct, um, anyway, there's a distinction between those two, and understanding these parts of me helps me with that, right? To be clear about what I want and who I am. Um, so that's good.
Good. Makes perfect sense to me. And I think you're doing an awesome job exploring that. Um, we've got 10 more minutes. I
Mhm.
think it could be good to be with these parts that are present and alive as best as we can. We probably won't go too deeply into any of them in particular, but how do you feel about potentially kind of coming back into self energy and generating some of that compassion or some of that understanding for how each of them show up? And just kind of playing around with just seeing, is that energetically, experientially accessible in you?
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. That
Okay.
sounds
And
good.
before we go there, is there anything else that any of these parts would really like to share in this moment while we have it open? They just really, if I could just be seen for this one thing right now, oof, that would feel good.
No, I think they're just excited, honestly.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Mostly that the one that we're now recognizing feels, is joy and like childlike curiosity rather than just unhinged sexual
Mm-hmm.
arousal.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like that's a real breakthrough for that part is to actually be clearly seen for something that sounds very innocent and actually
Mhm.
very beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do you feel towards these parts right now? Came up. We're talking about anxiety, nervousness, the initial firefighter.
Yeah. I think I am feeling happiness. I'm feeling that sense of gratitude for each of them. I think that the nervous one, though, it's popping up a little more with that feeling of worthlessness. And it's like, I would like to be known more deeply.
That nervous part with the feeling of worthlessness is saying, see me, I want to be known. Yeah.
Hmm.
Does that
Hmm.
make sense to you?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like saying there's more here to unpack. And this could be a great opportunity for you, Jake, to make a commitment with that part. Hey, I hear you. I hear the request, and I'm going to commit to you to come back. Generally, I like to say, later today or sometime tomorrow morning, like within 24 hours. You feel like that's reasonable, make a commitment to come back and just check in with that part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It could be 5 minutes, could be an hour, whatever is reasonable for you. But you're just saying, I'm going to come back. I'm going to hold the door open. You don't even have to come through, but I commit to you that I will make time for you.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that part able to kind of hear that opening?
I was getting it conceptually, so let me integrate it emotionally. Give me one
Please,
second.
yeah, and just communicate directly with it if you need.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm hearing thank you from that
Awesome.
part. Hmm.
Awesome.
And I appreciate you granting that invitation, Connor. Thank you.
Mm, mm. Yeah, so welcome. Mm. How are the rest of your parts doing? How's your system feeling overall? Any parts that need anything from you right now?
Hmm. I think I think the part that showed up about the belief, kind of the commitment uh, to sex within marriage type thing, and how deeply entrenched and broadly reaching that was from the time I was very, very young, going far beyond just sexual intimacy, but into relation to the opposite gender as a whole is dangerous and inappropriate. I think that is
Mhm.
inadvertently, I would say, but I think that's the belief that I carried as a kid, which would kind of match up with I had, throughout my life, had a lot of the kind of black and white, all or nothing thinking.
Totally. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love hearing that from that part. It sounds like it's giving us some more detail around how it's kind of been impacted.
Hmm.
Because it's not to say like I think waiting for sex for marriage, just to have it within that container. There's nothing wrong with that. That can be a beautiful decision, but it's more the oppression around natural expression, the joy, the innocence, curiosity of the opposite sex that is so inherently natural in us. It's going to happen. And to be properly maybe taught or shown or modeled, here's what to do with that in an integrous way. Most of us didn't get that. I'm guessing that you didn't really get that modeling.
Yeah. And this is public knowledge. My dad struggled with pornography addiction. So I think it was very, very difficult for both him and my mother to even approach the topic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Makes so much sense to me.
Hmm.
So just want to recognize like to that part, I'm saying that makes a ton of sense. You're letting it know it makes a lot of sense. And again, I think it's another trailhead for you, Jake, to explore a lot more to open up there. Um, you don't necessarily have to make a commitment to that part within 24 hours, but just letting it know, yeah, I think there's more for us to explore here. And I'm curious about that.
Okay. Yeah, there's an acceptance there.
Hmm.
It's good.
Got a couple of minutes before we have our hard stop. How are you feeling?
Very good. I think it's good to wrap up this segment, and it's been very helpful for me and actually has granted me insights that I really didn't anticipate.
Mm,
So
mm.
very helpful.
Nice.
And I appreciate
Nice.
it a lot, Connor. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really an honor. Thank you. And thank you to your parts for trusting me to open up and share and to be here with all of us. It's a big deal. It's a courageous thing to do. So I
Hmm.
respect you for it. And I do think it's
Thanks, man.
genuinely so helpful for other people to actually get a taste of what this thing can look like.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. And where I kind of want to wrap up the episode, I think, Connor, is because there are a lot of things that we just did. There's there is there's a simpleness to it. There's also a great complexity to it.
Right.
So maybe we can break down some of just a few basic practices that people can use on a daily basis for their own happiness and emotional regulation, but also that's going to assist them in recovery.
Yeah, sounds great. And I think I might be able to do that and tie it into a little bit of the work that you and I just did, because as in a way we did some relatively simple work. It also can still be a very nuanced, and maybe a little hard to decipher, but bringing in some IFS protocols, like here's actually what we did, and here's how you can follow these protocols on your own to do that. And also, here's some things that we didn't do because we didn't have the time that you can also add in for your own work at home. So one of the big factors that we were practicing here is coming back again and again to self energy. And just like I spoke about in the very beginning, how do we do that? Most easily is just by asking, how do I feel right now? How do I feel? And can we access a place of calm, curiosity, and compassion? So when we start doing IFS work, we start looking at, okay, there's a part of me that maybe is manifesting addictive behavior. Okay, there's a part of me that has a lot of self-criticism, a lot of judgment towards that behavior. Or there's a part of me that has this shame. There might be a part of me that's really feeling worthless. We might be able to access all that stuff pretty easily. And that's fantastic because we're starting to develop our map like you did. But we're starting to develop a higher level of self-awareness. While we do that, we want to keep coming back to, okay, am I in touch with the present moment? Am I in touch with self? Can I actually feel compassion for this part of me that is addicted? Can I? Or do I also feel this self-criticism? Okay. Can I actually have understanding and compassion for self-criticism? There's a really, there's like kind of a quick way to help generate compassion. And that is to ask the question, does it make sense to me? Because it's pretty hard to have compassion for something that we don't understand at all. And so that's why you heard me ask Jake many times, does that make sense? Does that make sense? Most of the time, the internal response will be, yeah, that does make sense. And from that place, it's easier to find compassion. But sometimes we get the response, no, it doesn't make sense. And that's great because what does that generate? Curiosity. So how can we make sense of it? We ask, hey, can you tell me more? Tell me more of your story. I want to understand you better. So this is like you just think of your internal work in the IFS realm as your work that you would do in maintaining a good friendship, a good relationship. You hold space for your friends' feelings. You get to share your feelings. You have compassion for them. You have curiosity for them. You have care for them. This is just the way good relationship develops. It's the same kind of thing we're doing internally, and that's why it's called internal family systems. The family is the internal, and we're working with it just like we would an external family to try to get everybody to function harmoniously and as a collective whole.
Hmm. I wondered if you could share, Connor. This is a little bit of a deeper question, but I was curious your
Sure.
opinion. How do you think this works from a neurological standpoint, or a psychological or a spiritual standpoint? And I'm actually just asking that from you personally. I know there's
Great.
so
I
many
have a personal
answers.
opinion.
Great. I'd love to hear it because I have all sorts of ideas. So I'd love to
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
yours.
totally, totally. I mean, mine is as simple as you could get. And I think, as you said, there's going to be a lot of different answers to that same question when we're talking about IFS. For me, The purpose of IFS is to be able to feel our feelings more deeply.
Hmm.
Now, that sounds very,
Wow.
but
I love that.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's what it's here. That is what it's here for me. And that's how I generated my focus for the work that I provide for others and also for myself. How deeply can we feel our feelings? Because it's my belief that if we're able to really feel what we are feeling in any given moment, no emotion gets stuck. It does not turn into trauma. It does not get blocked. We don't put a lid on the boiling pot of water. So we don't have either explosion or deflation. We have life. And within the context of life, we have pain, we have suffering, we have heartache, and we have brilliant joy, we have love, we have hope. That is life. It is all of these things. So really, when I'm saying how deeply can we feel, how deeply can we live? That's what IFS should be providing for you. In my opinion, it is not something to get black and white about. It's not something to get dogmatic about. It's another tool in your tool belt. Use it to the extent that it benefits you to live your life with more capacity to be in life. And I think initially it's really, really helpful to dive in, you know, play around with some of the protocols and see, does this thing open me up more? Is this helping me? Is this generative for me? But yeah, it's a simple answer to your question, to feel your feelings more deeply.
I think I just feel I rejoice in the truth of that, man.
Mm,
Like I just feel the depth of the simplicity and the meaning in what you're
mm,
saying. Because I think I get really caught up in the why. I want to know why and I want to know how things work. And I rejoice in that as well. But with parts work, I've questioned for years as I've done it. Why does it work this way, and how does it work? And are these parts real, and are they
yeah,
like little spiritual beings? You know what? And so I ask. I mean, I imagine you've asked these questions, and we won't go on this, forever. But anyway, it's fascinating to me, and I love
yeah,
to hear the perspective. So,
yeah. I mean, like, everyone's going to have their different opinion. I've been doing this work for a long time, very in depth with myself and with a lot of people. And what I've come to over and over again is it's really that simple. Um,
mm,
Real quickly, are these parts actual parts or not? Richard Schwartz would tend to say these are actual parts. I don't believe it that way. I think that we are too nuanced and too complex to nail something down so black and white to say this is a distinct thing and will forever be that way. That's not my experience. But it is an incredibly helpful framework for developing self-awareness and having a framework to actually generate internal love for ourselves. And this term self-love thrown around a lot. How do we
yes.
actually do it? Well, I think IFS provides you a real way to actually do it. And it can be incredibly profound. But like anything else, you could get addicted to IFS. You could use IFS to
Yeah.
distract yourself, and that's common.
Hmm.
So again, it's
Hmm.
like, please, use the tool. It's a great tool, um, but it's not the end all be all of life.
Ah, that's good, Connor. I really like that a lot. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that.
Cool.
It's helpful to me personally as well.
Wonderful.
Okay, so if people want to work with you, they want to connect with you, I'm definitely going to include all your links in the show notes.
Cool.
But where should they go if they want to connect with you, man?
Yeah, I mean, right now, internalfamilysystems.org, really easy way to connect with me, a couple programs over there and to work with me directly. I will say I've just started a new venture, which is backpacking groups for men. And so,
Mm.
we're doing our first one in May. I think that one's already going to be booked up. But if you're interested in something like that, I would love to hear from you, and we'll be starting a new website to kind of expand on that, but I'll put the shout out here now while I have the ears. And yeah, backpacking retreats for men, and focus on a lot of the same things I think that you talk about in your podcast, which is sobriety, presence, brotherhood. These things are really crucial, and our society is in a massive deficit for all three. So
So true. So true.
mm,
Well, that's awesome. I love that you've set out on that new venture. I
you're
think it's
invited.
awesome.
You're
Well,
invited.
thank you. Yes. I was just thinking that. I was like, that
Love to
sounds
have you.
great for me. I want to come.
We'll
So,
talk about it.
yeah, let's do it. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Conor.
Many blessings to you and to your audience.
Thanks for listening to No More Desire. It's a genuine blessing for me to do the work that I do, and I wouldn't be able to do it without you, my listeners, so thank you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, do me a favor. Follow this podcast, hit the notification bell, and shoot me a rating. The more people who do this, the more men this podcast will reach. So take a few minutes of your time and hit those buttons. And if you want to take your sobriety to the next level, check out my free workshop, The 8 Keys to Lose Your Desire for Porn, or my free ebook, The 10 Tools to Conquer Cravings. These are specialized pieces of content that will give you practical exercises and applied solutions to overcome porn addiction. And you can find them at nomordesire.com. As a listener of the No More Desire podcast, you are part of a worldwide movement of men who are breaking free of porn to live more impactful, meaningful, and selfless lives. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep building that recovery mindset and lifestyle. God bless. Everything expressed on the No More Desire podcast are the opinions of the host and participants and is for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast should not be considered mental health therapy or as a substitute thereof. It is strongly recommended that you seek out the clinical guidance of a qualified mental health professional. If you're experiencing thoughts of suicide, self-harm, or a desire to harm others, please dial 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.